A 67-year-old patient sat across from me last year. Retired engineer, healthy, active, devoted husband of 38 years. He looked at the floor and said, "Dr. Carter, my wife and I barely connect anymore, and I don't know if it's me or her or just us getting older." He wasn't describing a medical emergency. He was describing something quieter and far more painful, a slow drift away from the woman he loved, happening right inside their own home. And the truth is, what he was missing wasn't strength or medication or some complicated fix. It was knowledge. Specific knowledge that no one had ever thought to give him. That's exactly what we're covering today. I'm Dr. Emily Carter, a board-certified urologist with over 12 years of experience helping men over 60 reclaim their vitality, strength, and confidence in every area of their lives, including their intimate lives. I've sat across from thousands of men who believed their best years as husbands and partners were behind them. And time after time, I've watched simple, evidence-based adjustments transform not just their physical health, but their marriages, their sense of self, their joy. Before we go any further, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button right now and drop a comment below telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love connecting with men who are serious about living fully, at every age. Here's the reality that most men over 50 are never told. The intimate life doesn't have to decline with age. What declines, when nothing is done, is information and adaptation. The men I see who are thriving in their marriages at 65, 70, even 75 aren't doing anything superhuman. They've simply learned how their bodies changed, how their partner's body changed, and how to meet each other in that new reality with intention. The men who are struggling are often trying to do the same things the same way they did at 35, wondering why the results feel different. The body changes, the approach must change with it, and when it does, something remarkable often happens. Partners report deeper connection, greater satisfaction, and a level of intimacy that many describe as the best of their lives together. That is not an accident. That is biology working in your favor, if you know how to work with it. The first of the 5 intimate positions that women over 50 consistently describe as most satisfying is what I call the supported face-to-face position. Biologically, this position accomplishes something that most other positions simply cannot. It combines full body contact with direct eye contact simultaneously. Research in psychoneuroendocrinology, which is the study of how our mental state affects our hormones, shows that sustained eye contact between partners during physical intimacy elevates oxytocin, the bonding hormone, to its highest measurable levels. This isn't a small effect. It's the same hormone released when mothers hold newborns. It creates a neurological sense of safety, attachment, and deep recognition that the body responds to powerfully. For men over 60, this hormonal environment also supports stronger and more sustained arousal, with significantly less performance pressure. Emotionally, this position addresses one of the most common complaints I hear from women over 50 in couple consultations. "I feel like he's not really there with me." Women at this stage of life have typically moved well past purely physical desire. What they crave, what they will tell you privately creates the deepest satisfaction, is presence. The experience of being truly seen by their partner. This position makes that unavoidable. Practically, this works best with 1 or 2 supportive pillows beneath the hips to reduce lower back strain, which is the #1 physical complaint for men over 60 in any intimate activity. The position requires almost no muscular exertion when set up correctly, which means your focus can go entirely to connection rather than effort. The second position is side-lying face-to-face, and this one surprises most men because of how simple it is. Biologically, the side-lying position takes all gravitational and muscular pressure completely off the spine, hips, and knees simultaneously. For men dealing with any degree of arthritis, lumbar stiffness, or hip discomfort, which describes the majority of men over 60, whether they've mentioned it to a doctor or not, this position essentially removes the physical barrier entirely. The cardiovascular demand is also significantly lower, which is not about limitation, it's about sustainability. Longer, more relaxed, intimate experiences consistently rate higher in partner satisfaction studies than shorter, more intense ones. Emotionally, there is a profound psychological safety in lying side by side that face-to-face standing or seated positions don't replicate. For women over 50 who are themselves navigating hormonal shifts, physical sensitivities, and their own body image concerns, the unhurried quality of this position often removes anxiety that they may not even have consciously named. When her nervous system feels safe, her body responds. That is not sentiment, that is physiology. Practically, no props required for this one. Simply lie facing each other at the same level. The angle of approach and depth are naturally more gentle, which aligns with what the majority of women over 50 report preferring. Connection over intensity, every single time. I want to tell you about Robert. 71 years old, retired teacher, married 44 years. He came to me after his wife had gently suggested they see someone. He told me, "She says I seem distracted, like I'm somewhere else, but I'm right there." What Robert didn't realize was that being there, physically, and being present emotionally are two entirely different experiences for a woman, and her body registers the difference. We talked about the physiological reality of presence, eye contact, breath synchronization, verbal expression. He was skeptical at first. 6 weeks later, he called my office. He said, "I don't know what happened, but my wife cried after we were together last week. She said it was the most connected she'd felt in years." That is the power of understanding rather than effort. The third position is what researchers in sexual medicine call the elevated comfort position, where one partner is supported in a reclined but elevated posture, typically at about a 30 to 45 degree angle, using pillows or a wedge. Biologically, elevation at this angle improves pelvic blood flow, reduces abdominal compression, and for women over 50 who may experience discomfort from vaginal dryness or tissue sensitivity related to hormonal changes, it allows for a gentler approach angle that significantly reduces friction and discomfort. When she is comfortable, everything changes. Her arousal deepens, her engagement increases, and her reported satisfaction rises dramatically. For the man, this position requires minimal physical exertion and allows for complete control of pace and depth, which is the #1 factor men over 60 cite when asked what most affects their confidence during intimacy. Emotionally, this position puts the man in a naturally giving, attentive role. He is oriented toward her comfort. He is watching her face. He is responding to her responses. Women over 50 describe this quality of attentiveness as, quote, "finally feeling like they matter more than the outcome." The shift from performance to presence is not a compromise. It is an upgrade. The fourth position is seated intimacy, and I want to spend a moment here because this one carries enormous emotional weight that the clinical literature sometimes misses. Biologically, a seated position, whether in a sturdy chair or at the edge of a bed, allows the man's core muscles to be largely passive, while the arms are free to hold, to touch, to express. The cardiovascular load is moderate and steady, not spiking, which is ideal for men with any degree of blood pressure concern. Research also shows that the seated position creates a natural rocking motion that stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and connection system, in both partners. This deepens the felt sense of intimacy beyond what the body is doing mechanically. Emotionally, being held while being intimate is something women name repeatedly in satisfaction research as deeply meaningful. At 50, 60, 70, the desire to feel held, physically and emotionally, doesn't diminish. It often intensifies. When a man can offer that quality of enveloping presence, it creates a memory in her body and in her nervous system that she will return to. Practically, a chair with arms and a firm seat is ideal. Height matters. Test it beforehand. This is a position that rewards a small amount of practical preparation for a disproportionately large emotional return. Quick pause before we continue. If you're finding this valuable, and I believe you will find the fifth position the most important of all, stay with me. Everything we've covered builds toward it. I want to tell you about Gerald. 68 years old, in good health, 31-year marriage. His wife had started, in his words, just going through the motions. He was devastated. He came to me expecting a prescription, What he got instead was a conversation about attunement, about learning to read his wife's responses and adjust in real time, rather than following a script he'd written decades ago. 3 months later, he sent a note to my office. His wife had told him she hadn't felt this close to him since their honeymoon. Gerald hadn't taken anything. He'd simply learned to pay a different kind of attention. That is medicine. That is what knowledge does. The fifth position, and I saved this for last because it is the most powerful and also the most underestimated, is slow, unhurried, fully clothed or partially clothed pre-intimacy holding. I know that may not sound like what you expected, but hear me out because the science here is extraordinary. Biologically, extended non-demand physical closeness, holding, slow touch, lying together quietly, triggers a cascade of oxytocin release that primes both nervous systems for deeper physical intimacy. For women over 50, whose arousal pathway is heavily influenced by emotional safety and cortisol levels, this slow approach can double or triple their physical responsiveness compared to moving directly to physical intimacy without it. For men over 60, this same oxytocin environment significantly reduces performance anxiety, lowers cortisol, and supports the neurological conditions that make arousal easier and more sustained. Emotionally, women over 50 name this quality of unhurried togetherness, being valued before anything is asked of them, as the single most meaningful, intimate experience they can have with a partner. Not the position, not the technique. The feeling of being wanted simply for existing. That is what creates the conditions for everything else. Practically, build 10 to 15 minutes of this into your intimate time consistently, not as foreplay with an agenda, but as an experience complete in itself. Let her feel that you are in no rush, that she is enough, that this moment is enough. What follows will reflect that. Here is your simple action plan. Step 1. Tonight, before anything else, give your partner 10 minutes of unhurried, non-demanding physical closeness. No agenda, just presence. Step 2. This week, try one of the lower demand positions we discussed, side-lying or supported face-to-face, with proper pillow support. Notice how much less physical effort is required and how much more emotional connection becomes available when your body isn't working hard. Step 3. Make eye contact intentionally during intimacy. Sustained, soft, genuine eye contact. This single habit, practiced consistently, is one of the most powerful things you can do for your intimate relationship at any age. That's it. 3 steps. Within 30 days, you will feel the difference. And more importantly, she will. I want to say something important before we close, and I want you to hear it clearly. If you've been feeling frustrated, embarrassed, or quietly ashamed that your intimate life isn't what it once was, you are not broken. You are not failing. You are not too old. You are simply in a chapter of life that requires different knowledge than the one that came before. Every man I've described to you today, Robert, Gerald, the engineer who sat across from me staring at the floor, they all felt exactly what you may be feeling right now. And every one of them found their way back. Not to who they were at 35, to something better, actually. To a depth of connection that younger men rarely access because it requires exactly the patience, presence, and life experience you already have. Your body is not abandoning you. It is asking you to show up differently. And when you do, vitality isn't lost. It's waiting. If this video gave you hope, gave you something useful, gave you one thing you'll carry into your life this week, please give it a like so that other men who need this can find it. Leave a comment below. Type the number 1 if this resonated with you. Share this with a friend, a brother, or someone you know who's been quietly struggling. And subscribe for new evidence-based health content for men over 50 every single week. You showing up here today may be the reason another man shows up for his marriage tomorrow. I'm Dr. Emily Carter, reminding you that after 50, vitality isn't lost. It's simply waiting for you to awaken it. Take care of yourself, take care of your marriage, and I'll see you in the next one.